You are listening to Passport Talks.
Okay, let's unpack this. Portugal. There's just something magnetic about it, isn't there?
Absolutely. You think of the landscapes, the climate.
Yeah, that warm climate, the safety, people seem so friendly, the whole pace of life.
All right. And the history, the traditions, it's got this real pull.
It really does. And it's no surprise people are looking at it, not just for holiday, but thinking, could I actually live there?
That appeal is undeniable. And then the next question pops up. Okay, if Portugal, where? Where would I actually go? And what's it really like?
Exactly. And that's what we're digging into today. We're going through sources, looking at some of Portugal's, well, top cities.
From the big capital to smaller spots, coastal towns, even an island.
Yeah, trying to pull out what makes each one tick. And importantly, the practical stuff. Like, what does it actually cost to live there?
The goal is really to give you a bit more of a map to navigate these options if Portugal is on your radar.
And before we jump into the cities, it's probably worth quickly mentioning how people actually, move there, the residency paths.
Good point. The sources bring up a few key ones. There's the golden visa, that's the investment route.
Right. Investing in arts or culture, that's 250,000 euros. Or investment funds research, that's 500,000 euros.
Yeah. Or even creating a business with jobs. That's aimed squarely at investors.
But there are other ways too, right? The D7 visa.
Exactly. The D7, that's often called the passive income visa. So if you've got stable income like pensions, investments, that could be a route.
And the D8 for digital nomads, people working remotely.
Right. So different options depending on your situation. They sort of set the scene for making a move possible.
Okay, so with that context, let's start where most people probably land first.
Lisbon. Has to be. The capital city.
It's huge. One of the oldest cities in the world, apparently. Often the first taste people get of Portugal.
And it's got layers of history. You know, that massive earthquake in the 18th century. It really shaped the city you see today.
Despite all that history, the sources say getting around is actually pretty good.
Seems like it. They highlight the public transport system, trams, metro, buses, ferries.
And those cool funiculars and elevators. Essential for those hills, I bet.
Totally. Some key areas stand out, like the historic core of Baixa, Alfama, Belém.
And then areas like Avenida de Liberdade, Castro Sodré, Príncipe Real, Estrela too, still quite historic, mostly.
But then there's this contrast they mention, the Park of Nations, Parque das Nações.
Ah, right, the modern bit. Built for the 98 Expo.
Exactly. Described as having, contemporary architecture, big shopping center, waterfront area, the oceanarium.
They even compared it to places like Brickell Key in Miami or Battery Park City.
Yeah, that comparison really paints a picture. It shows Lisbon isn't just old buildings, it's dynamic.
It's right on the Tagus River. There's the bay.
Yeah.
But the water's cold, right? Even in summer.
That's what the sources say. So maybe not ideal for a quick dip right in the city.
But the surroundings sound amazing. Castles, fishing towns.
Forests, lighthouses, nice beaches nearby, though still chilly water probably. But yeah, stunning nature and history just outside the city.
Okay, so that gives us a feel for the place. Now, the big question, costs. What's the data say?
All right, let's look at these sample figures. A one-bedroom apartment, city center, listed at 11,170 euros per month.
Oof. Okay. What about eating out?
A 3-course meal for 2 mid-range place comes in around 50 euros.
Getting around town. Monthly pass.
That's 40 euros. And petrol, if you're driving, is about 2 euros per liter right now.
And for families, preschool.
Full-day preschool is noted at roughly 420 euros a month.
And hitting the gym.
Fitness club membership, around 38 euros monthly.
So Lisbon definitely sets a higher baseline, especially on that rent. Let's head north now, second city.
Porto, right on the Douro River where it meets the Atlantic.
And the sources really emphasize the food and drink here, don't they?
Oh yeah, the local cuisine, the wine, especially port wine, obviously. It seems like a huge part of life there.
Beyond the food, though, what's the vibe?
Beautiful architecture, they say. A mix of old winding streets and wider avenues. And interestingly, they mention it's very clean.
And the historic center is UNESCO protected. Dates back to the 4th century, wow.
Yeah, loads of history. Activities sound great, too, looking at the azulejo tiles.
Ah, the blue tiles. Everywhere, right?
Pretty much. Visiting Baroque churches, walking along the coast, or the Questa Ribera, that riverfront promenade.
Top sites mentioned. Porto Palace, the Clerigo's Tower, Chapel of Souls. That's the one with the tiles on the outside, isn't it?
That's the one. And the Ribeira area itself.
The sources draw a bit of a comparison between Lisbon and Porto.
They do. Lisbon is the bigger, maybe more dynamic capital. Porto is highlighted more for the food, the welcoming locals, the natural beauty nearby.
And affordability. They call Lisbon perfectly affordable for families, which seems odd given the rent, but maybe other things balance out. Porto sounds generally cheaper, though.
Let's see. The Porto costs one-bedroom city center apartment is 750 euros.
Okay, that's a big difference from Lisbon's 1,170 euros.
Yeah. Meal for two is a bit less, 40 euros.
Transport pass.
Same as Lisbon, 40 euros. Gas is slightly cheaper, 1.98. Preschool is cheaper too, 350 euros per month. Fitness club is the same, 38 euros.
So yeah, Porto definitely looks more affordable, especially housing and childcare. Interesting.
Okay, let's shift back south a bit, but stick to the coast. Cascais.
Right, the resort town. Only about 25 kilometers from Lisbon, often mentioned as a really desirable place to live.
Its history's interesting. Fishing village, then a port, then this association with luxury holidays, now one of the wealthiest spots on the Iberian Peninsula.
Makes sense. Activities are all about the coast, right? Beaches, boats.
Seafood, definitely. And they mentioned trying ginja, that sour cherry liqueur.
And it's right near Cabo de Roca, the westernmost point of mainland Europe.
That's it. Sounds quite dramatic edge of the earth feeling. 140-meter cliffs.
Okay, cost for Cascais. Being wealthy and near Lisbon, I'm guessing higher.
Let's see. One-bedroom apartment, 1,050 euro.
Yeah, closer to Lisbon than Porto. Meal for two.
50? Same as Lisbon. Transport pass is 40 euros. Gas is 2.03 euros. Preschool, 460 euros a month. Fitness, 38 euro. So yeah, reflects its location and reputation cost-wise. High rent, higher childcare.
Right. Let's head inland now. Coimbra.
Coimbra, very different feel. It's known as the student region, central Portugal. Population around 105,000. It was actually the capital once.
But its big thing is the university, isn't it?
Absolutely. One of Europe's oldest, founded way back in the 13th century. It's UNESCO protected, top 5 in Portugal. Many faculties are in these incredible old buildings.
Wow. So history is huge there too, beyond the university.
Definitely. Roman ruins, old towers, churches, the monastery where the first king is buried, the Barbican Arch.
Sounds like a lot to see. And for relaxing. Mondego Park.
Yeah, sounds lovely for picnics, green sculptures, fountains.
Okay, Coimbra costs, given the student focus, may be lower.
Let's check. One-bedroom city center, 525 euros.
Whoa, okay. That's much lower. Meal for two.
32 euros. Also lower. Monthly transport is cheaper too. 30 euros.
Gasoline.
Slightly higher here. 2.2 per liter. Preschool is 328 euros, fitness 35 euros.
Interesting mix, but overall seems way more affordable than the coastal cities we've looked at so far. Makes sense for a student town, maybe.
Definitely a different cost profile. Now, heading north again, into the Braga district. Let's talk about Braga City.
Braga, that's the religious capital.
That's a title it holds, yeah. Center of Catholicism since the 16th century. Archbishop lives there.
So lots of pilgrims, tourists visiting churches.
Seems like it. Known for its architecture mixture of styles like neoclassical, Baroque, Renaissance, narrow streets, key churches, and the cathedral are the main draws.
What's a general vibe like?
Described as relatively quiet, calm, good for walking, cafes. It was named Best European Travel Destination in 2021, interestingly.
Okay, cost in Braga. Similar to Coimbra, maybe?
Let's see. One-bedroom apartment, 560 euros.
Pretty close, yeah. Meal for two.
30 euros. Very affordable. Monthly transport is the lowest yet, 26 euros.
Wow. Gas.
2.03 euros. Preschool is also really low, 260 euros a month. Fitness, 36 euros.
So Braga and Coimbra seem to be in a similar, much more affordable bracket, especially compared to Lisbon or Cascais.
Definitely shaping up that way. Okay, staying in the Braga district. Guimarães.
Guimarães, the birthplace of Portugal. Huge historical significance.
Immense. First king born there, first capital of independent Portugal.
And is known for being really well preserved.
Yes, famous for its ancient buildings, historical monuments. The historic center is also UNESCO protected.
Where are the key sites?
Pedro do Salado Monument, Gardens of Brazil, and Guimarães Castle, that impressive 10th century fortress.
And Largo da Oliveira, that's the main square.
Right, described as the historical heart surrounded by colorful traditional houses, Gothic architecture. Sounds very picturesque.
Yes. What about the cost?
Still low.
One-bedroom apartment, 566 euros. Meal for two, 30 euros. Still very low.
Transport.
Higher here, actually. 45 euros per month. Gas is 2.01 euros.
Okay, that's an outlier. Preschool.
This is the standout, 132 euros a month.
Get out, really, 132 euros.
And fitness is 28 euros. So Guimarães is mostly very affordable, especially childcare, but with that higher transport cost. Very interesting.
Fascinating mix. Okay, let's head back south again towards Lisbon, but not quite there. Santarém. Santarém, another really old city, about 65 kilometers from Lisbon on the Tagus. There's a legend about his name, Saint Irene.
It used to be a royal favorite, even the capital for a while.
Yeah, associated with monarchs, royal residents, a period of cultural growth.
Main landmark. The cathedral.
The Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, yes. It was a church first, became a cathedral in 75. The bishop's palace next door is now the city museum.
And it's maybe a smaller place to see it in a day.
That's how it's often described. They suggest visiting the Portas do Sol cliff for views over the Tagus.
Costs for Santarém. Mid-range, maybe, being near Lisbon?
Let's check. One bedroom, 612 euros. Meal for two, 45 euros.
Transport.
40 euro. Gas, 2.03 euros. Preschool, 190 euro a month. Fitness, 36 euros.
Yeah, seems sort of in the middle. More than Braga, Coimbra, Guimarães, but less than Lisbon, Cascais. Proximity of the capital may be influencing it.
Seems plausible. Okay, big jump south now. The Algarve region.
Faro, capital of the Algarve, right? Big hub for the south.
Exactly. City and seaport. The sources really stress its infrastructure. University of the Algarve, international airport, seaport, marina, train station, bus station. It's got it all.
Plus a stadium from Euro 2004 and a student festival.
Yeah, and the Faro City Festival on September 7th is mentioned specifically.
Okay, let's talk costs in Faro. One bedroom city center, 750 euros. Meal for two, 40 euros.
So, rent, similar to Porto. Transport.
40 euro. Gas, 2.03. Preschool, though, 575 euros a month.
Whoa. It's the highest we've seen by far.
It is. Fitness is 31 euros, so Faro has that higher rent like Porto, but significantly higher childcare costs. Maybe we're reflecting the Algarve's popularity.
Okay, one more jump, leaving the mainland. Madeira.
Funchal, the capital of Madeira Island, described as one of Portugal's most beautiful cities, located on the south side.
The climate is a huge draw, right? Island of eternal spring.
That's the nickname, yeah. Protected by mountains, so warm winters and summers aren't scorching due to the breeze. Sounds ideal.
Attractions are mostly in the old part. Government buildings, mansions, churches, temples, Blandy's wine house for Madeira wine, and botanical gardens on the outskirts.
Sounds like a great place for year-round living or relaxing. Sheltered too, apparently, due to its shape.
Yeah, like a natural amphitheater. Let's look at Funchal's costs. One bedroom, 800 euros.
Okay, higher end, bit more than Porto or Faro. Meal for two.
35 euros. Transport, 35 euros. Gas, 2.3 euro.
Preschool.
215 euros. Fitness, 43 euros. So rent is up there, but childcare is surprisingly low compared to Faro. Or even Lisbon. Interesting trade-off.
Okay, last one. Back to the mainland, near Lisbon again. Sintra.
Sintra, famous resort town, known for its beaches, 17 sandy ones mentioned.
Climate sounds lovely and mild, too. Not too hot, not too cold. They suggest visiting in spring or autumn.
Yeah, shoulder seasons, better weather, maybe fewer crowds, easier to get hotels.
And Sintra is all about the palaces, isn't it? Paint a palace?
That's the iconic one, yeah. On the mountaintop, neo-Romanesque, mix of styles, a real symbol.
And the National Palace of Sintra in the town itself.
Right. The former royal residence with those unique conical chimneys. Again, a mix of styles built up over time.
Okay, cost for Sintra, close to Lisbon, but maybe different because it's more touristy historic.
Let's see. One bedroom, 553 euros.
Wow, that's low. Similar to Braga or Coimbra. Meal for two.
32 euros.
Transport, 35 euro. Gas,
35
2.02.
euros. Gas, 2.02. Preschool, 325 euros. Fitness, 38 euros. So, yeah, surprisingly affordable, especially the rent, given its proximity to Lisbon. Maybe reflects it being less of a primary residential hub for commuters.
Could be. So just to quickly recap the costs based on these samples.
Lisbon is generally the priciest, especially rent and preschool.
Whereas places like Coimbra, Braga, Guimarães, and Sintra look much, much lower cost overall from this data.
And then Porto, Santarém, Faro, Funchal are kind of in that middle ground, but remember, these are just snapshots, sample costs.
Absolutely. Just gives you a sense of the variation. So we've covered a lot of ground. Lisbon, Porto, Coimbra, Braga, Guimarães, Santarém, Faro, Cascais, Sintra, Funchal. Quite the tour.
It really shows the diversity, doesn't it? Bustling capital, historic centers, university town, coastal resorts, island life. Each offers something different.
And a different price tag, as we saw.
Which really highlights that there isn't just one Portugal experience. Depending on what you're looking for, city buzz, quiet history, beach life, affordability, there's likely a place that fits.
And circling back to how you actually get there, those residency options are key.
Right. The golden visa for investors, residency for the family, Schengen travel.
Which means easy travel across, 29 European countries, plus potential citizenship down the line, maybe better tax situations with that non-habitual resident status.
Exactly. And don't forget the D7 for passive income, D8 for digital nomads, different routes for different people. Access to European education is another big poll mentioned.
It's a lot to think about: the place, the feel, the cost, the practicalities of moving. We've covered a lot of the what and where.
But maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. Beyond the rent or the sites, what aspects of daily life do you think would be most crucial for your own successful move?
Yeah, like integrating, finding your community, dealing with the day-to-day bureaucracy. What non-cost factors would be top of your list when choosing a city in Portugal? Just something to mull over.
You are listening to Passport Talks, a podcast on how to become a true cosmopolitan, how to travel the world without visas, create a safe haven for your family, and access top-notch education and healthcare with a second passport or residency.